Welcome back. Today we're examining a deeply disturbing case, one that highlights the profound impact of mental health on individuals and families. It's a story about a strong woman who, in a moment of crisis, made a decision that would forever change the course of her loved ones' lives. We hope this case serves as a crucial reminder to prioritize mental well-being and to seek help when facing life's challenges. Our investigation begins in Atlanta, Georgia, a thriving city with a rich history. But on November 6, 2021, at around 9 p.m., the tranquility was shattered. A call to 911 reported terrifying screams and the unmistakable sound of gunfire coming from a nearby home. Join us as we unravel the events of that fateful night. Police officers rushed to the scene and entered the home, where they discovered a man and a woman lying dead on the floor. After securing the area, investigators began piecing together the tragic events that had unfolded. The victims were identified as Ronell and Kiana Burns, a married couple, but who would want to kill them, and why? The Burns family lived in a spacious home in Gwinnett County, one of the most ethnically diverse areas in the region. The house showed no signs of forced entry or burglary, as all belongings remained untouched. The key to solving this double homicide emerged surprisingly quickly. But to understand the full story, we need to rewind and take a closer look at the lives of Ronell and Kiana Burns. Kiana was born on September 15, 1977 in St. Louis, Missouri. She graduated from Riverview Gardens High School and later attended St. Louis Community College in Florissant Valley, where she studied cosmetology. Driven and ambitious, Kiana soon began building her own business empire. She opened a beauty salon that quickly gained popularity. Known for her relentless work ethic, Kiana had always dreamed of a luxurious and prosperous life. She poured her heart and soul into her business, and her efforts paid off. Over the next 20 years, Kiana transformed her salon into one of the largest and most successful in the St. Louis area. However, Kiana's personal life wasn't as smooth as her professional success. A strong, wealthy, and ambitious woman, she found it difficult to find a partner who matched her drive and determination. By the age of 44, Kiana had 3 children from previous relationships, whom she adored and cherished. Her family described her as a devoted and loving mother. Kiana was a pillar of strength for the women in her life, a loyal friend, a supportive confidant, and a thriving businesswoman. She seemed to have it all when she met her future husband, Ronell Burns. Ronell was born on May 14, 1975, in St. Louis, Missouri. He graduated from the High School of Fashion in 1994, where he excelled on the basketball team and even played for a state championship. Ronell was driven, ambitious, and thrived on competition, always striving for greatness. When he met Kiana, Ronell already had 2 children from a previous relationship. Fate brought these 2 successful, ambitious individuals together, and they built a new, strong, and happy family. On September 13, 2012, they officially became husband and wife, celebrating their love with a beautiful wedding surrounded by family and friends. However, soon after the wedding, Kiana began to see new sides of Ronell. It turned out that from an early age, Ronell had dedicated his life to Jesus Christ and felt called to serve others. He began ministering to everyone he encountered, even strangers on the street. Ronell created a web page where he shared his coaching and preaching, reaching a wide audience online. In his videos, Ronell often spoke about how God had spoken to him in his early years, instructing him to help people. One of his messages stated, "Sometimes God calls everyone, and only He can allow things to happen in life." Ronell's ministry grew, and his video messages gained popularity on the internet. In addition to his work as a church coach, Ronell was a financial counselor and insurance agent. He founded a company called Traditional Financial Solutions, with a mission to help people worldwide achieve financial independence. Ronell was highly successful in his business endeavors and his mission to help others. His speeches drew large audiences, and Kiana stood firmly by his side, supporting his vision. Together, they became a power couple, gaining significant popularity online. Ronell was already well known as a leader and coach in Six-Figure Ambition, an online program for entrepreneurs. With over 7,000 followers on Instagram and 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, Ronell ran a channel filled with educational videos. Ronell and Kiana Burns combined their families and business acumen, dreaming big and creating something impactful that touched thousands of lives. Keianna, too, was a sought-after speaker at business events, where she shared lessons and inspiration on achieving success. She had 17,000 followers on Instagram, where she posted glimpses of her family life and motivational quotes. In one of their popular video messages, the couple appeared before their audience dressed in exclusive branded attire. They spoke passionately about entrepreneurship and how it had transformed their lives and the lives of their subscribers. The Burnses emphasized that their mission was to teach others how to become successful entrepreneurs and build their own businesses. "The time to build other people's businesses is over," they declared. The couple wanted to inspire young entrepreneurs to invest their earnings wisely rather than spend them frivolously, creating a cycle of wealth that would grow on its own. Their speeches often ended with a powerful message. You don't have to be great to start. You have to start to become great. The Burnses never shied away from showcasing their luxurious lifestyle. Instead, they flaunted it, using their success to attract new students and subscribers. However, behind the scenes, it was Kiana who had truly walked the path Ronell often preached about. She had worked tirelessly to build and operate a network of salons entirely on her own. By the time they began their coaching journey, Kiana owned multiple salons and was also a successful insurance agent. It was her business acumen that generated the majority of the family's wealth. Ronell, on the other hand, was determined to maintain the image of a wealthy, successful family. The couple frequently posted photos of themselves in expensive clothing, dining at the finest restaurants and living a life of luxury. But while the Burnses projected an image of success, their message resonated most with those who aspired to achieve similar heights. Rich and successful people, they argued, move forward without wasting time on empty words. Meanwhile, those who struggled continued to believe in the Burnses' speeches, hoping to emulate their success. Ronell's enticing stories of earning big money with minimal effort, simply by following his mentorship, drew significant interest. After all, who doesn't dream of escaping poverty and achieving wealth? This led Ronell Burns to found Six-Figure Ambition, a company that promised financial freedom and success. It became a vehicle for growing their wealth and building a legacy, a topic Ronell passionately discussed in every interview. For a long time, the Burnses appeared to be a tight-knit family, admired by their entourage. But cracks began to show when Ronell suggested they move from their beloved hometown of St. Louis to Atlanta. By then, the couple had 3 children together, Rhea, Makey, and Ray Haley. As parents and successful professionals, Ronell and Kiana Burns were seen as inspirational figures, people others looked up to. The move to Atlanta was driven by their plans to expand their business. Ronell, who had taken over Kiana's salon business, dreamed of growing it further. 3 salons in St. Louis were no longer enough for his ambitions. He wanted to establish a chain in Atlanta and attract a broader clientele. Kiana was hesitant to leave St. Louis, but she reluctantly agreed, continuing to play the role of the supportive wife in public. On social media, she painted a picture-perfect life. She posted photos of a premium Maserati Levante gifted to her by Ronell and shared images of her trunk filled with Louis Vuitton bags. Each post was accompanied by captions expressing admiration and gratitude for her husband. Like any influencer, Kiana also dedicated her Instagram feed to her children and family life. But after a while, she could no longer maintain the facade. In a candid moment, she admitted to her audience that not everything in their family was as perfect as it seemed. The couple was on the verge of divorce. After moving to Atlanta, Kiana found herself alone in a large, unfamiliar city, forced to start over. In a heartfelt video message, she shared with her subscribers how difficult the transition had been. "You have to be ready for life changes," she said during a Facebook live stream. "Things in your life can change for the better or for the worse overnight, literally. If you don't think you're a strong enough person, some things can take you out of yourself." Keianna admitted that she needed her followers' support as she navigated this challenging time. She credited her subscribers with helping her through the dark days, which had become increasingly frequent. From the outside, no one had any idea how close they were to divorce. Keianna's confession shocked their audience, prompting Ronell to address the situation publicly as well. In a live broadcast, he revealed that they had decided 7 months earlier to divorce. His words, however, sounded more like a business announcement than a personal revelation. "I'm tired of her," Ronell said bluntly. "We're going to continue to run our business together, but we're also announcing that we're getting a divorce. We've dealt with each other. We've both come to this conclusion, but let's not put pressure and grieve. Everything around us will remain the same. We took out a piece of paper, drew a line down the middle, and decided how we're going to divide the business." As public figures, the Burnses had always shared only the positive aspects of their lives. Admitting failures or struggles risked losing their followers' trust and the status they had built over the years. But the truth soon came to light. Behind the glamorous social media posts, the Burnses' wealthy lifestyle was largely a facade. Ronell, in his relentless pursuit of fame and popularity, had squandered much of the money Keianna had earned from her beauty salons, and he didn't stop there. Over the years, the Burns family accumulated over $500,000 in debt to various banks. The move to an unfamiliar city and mounting financial difficulties had clearly taken their toll. On the eve of the tragedy, Keianna Burns went live on social media, interacting with her subscribers. She asked her fans to pray for her strength as she struggled without the support of family and friends, especially while caring for her children. In her post, Keianna spoke about life changes and shared how she and Ronell had moved to Atlanta just 5 or 6 months earlier to expand their business. She wrote, "I tell you, if you don't pray and keep the faith, things can change and take you away." She also emphasized the importance of having a supportive circle of loved ones who could help you navigate challenges that seemed insurmountable. "Because if we leave things to chance, we start to overthink and make bad decisions," she added. Keianna acknowledged that any life change comes with difficulties, especially when adjusting to a new environment and meeting new people without the support of immediate family and friends. She admitted that she was working on her mental health and worried she wasn't strong enough to face the challenges life had thrown her way. But was the move the main cause of the family's turmoil? In her speech, Keianna didn't mention the real reason for the rift: Ronell's numerous infidelities and promiscuous lifestyle, which had always been hidden behind the facade of their happy Instagram posts. However, later that same night, she posted another video, this time dancing joyfully at home with one of her daughters. A few hours later, the unthinkable happened. Keianna and Ronnell had a heated argument. In a moment of despair, Keianna grabbed a gun, shot Ronnell, and then turned the weapon on herself. Authorities were called to the Burns home. By the time police arrived, neighbors had gathered outside, reporting that they had heard gunshots from inside the house. Initially, investigators believed Ronell had shot himself, but when they discovered Keianna's body in another room, a gun in her hand, it became clear that she had been the one to pull the trigger. The motive seemed obvious, but speculation swirled. Some claimed Keianna had been driven to kill Ronell after discovering his infidelity. Others suggested the couple's crippling debt and Ronell's fraudulent behavior had pushed her to the edge. As people dug deeper into the Burns' lives, they uncovered troubling details. Ronell's ex-wife came forward, revealing that during their divorce, she had learned he was a habitual cheater. He had been irresponsible with her money, failed to hold down jobs, and left her with a ruined credit history. When Ronell met Keianna, she was a successful career woman, a stark contrast to his own instability. Keianna, in turn, was drawn to Ronell's confidence and charm. At first, their partnership seemed like a winning combination: Keianna's fortune and Ronell's entrepreneurial spirit. But over time, their business ventures collapsed, leaving only Keianna's beauty salon as a source of income. Despite their financial struggles, Ronell continued to portray himself as a successful businessman on social media. The couple carefully hid their money problems and relationship issues behind glamorous posts, showcasing expensive purchases and happy family moments. Ronell's Instagram was filled with posts about his business endeavors, claiming that everything he touched turned to gold. The Burnses presented themselves as devout Christians, often quoting the Bible and other scriptures to align with their messages of success and faith. They shared photos of their luxurious home, fancy cars, and lavish vacations, creating an image of wealth and happiness. But in reality, it was all a carefully constructed facade. Ronell worked for an American marketing insurance company that preyed on middle and lower-income families. He even tried to recruit family members and friends into the scheme to boost his status. However, the money he earned from this fraudulent activity wasn't enough to sustain their lifestyle. Despite their financial struggles, the Burnses continued to convince everyone around them that their new business was thriving and that they were successful entrepreneurs. Their arrogance was so overwhelming that they even created a TV series about themselves, titled Meet the Burns. Everything they supposedly earned was immediately spent on maintaining a lavish lifestyle, all in an effort to portray themselves as something they were not. This reckless extravagance eventually led them to financial ruin. On December 19, 2019, Keianna and Ronnell Burns filed for bankruptcy. The couple was forced to liquidate some of their assets to pay off their creditors. Despite this, they continued to pretend as if nothing was wrong, maintaining the facade of a happy family and successful business partners. But in St. Louis, it was becoming increasingly difficult to keep up the charade. Ronell decided that moving to a bigger city would allow him to continue scamming people without scrutiny. It was yet another ill-fated decision. Keianna, however, still had a thriving beauty salon, the family's only reliable source of income. Reluctantly, she agreed to the move, hoping for a fresh start. But Atlanta was not kind to her. Keianna struggled to adjust to the new city. She was already aware of Ronell's repeated infidelities and was exhausted from years of patience and silence. The couple eventually decided to divorce. In divorce papers filed on October 10, 2021, Ronell cited Keianna's alleged infidelity as the reason for the split. Keianna was devastated, but understood the truth behind his claims. Family and friends, however, were kept in the dark about the couple's struggles. Ronell hid the reality from the public, desperate to preserve his image. 10 days later, on October 20th, Keianna went live on social media. The bright smile she was known for was replaced by an expression of deep concern and sadness. She spoke openly about the challenges she was facing, asking her followers for prayers and support. After divorcing his first wife, Ronell had married Keianna, a successful and wealthy woman. Using his newfound image as a devout guru, he appeared to be a changed and reliable man. But in reality, he hadn't changed at all. He continued to exploit Keianna's trust and money, playing the role of a successful businessman while their lives crumbled around them. What had once seemed like a perfect union was now over. On November 9, 2021, 44-year-old Keianna Burns shot and killed her 46-year-old husband, Ronell Burns, before turning the gun on herself. The Sandy Springs Police Department confirmed that no one else was home at the time of the murder-suicide. The couple left behind 8 children, who would now grow up without parents. Authorities noted that there was no history of domestic violence at the family's Atlanta home. Keianna's final act came just weeks after she had asked her Facebook friends to pray for her strength. The reasons behind Keianna's decision remain unknown. One can only speculate what drove this strong-spirited woman to such a drastic and tragic end. It's clear that, in her darkest moments, she saw no other way out. Keianna had withdrawn into herself, burdened by unsolvable inner turmoil. She was tired of pretending to be happy instead of truly being happy. For years, their life together had been a carefully curated performance. But behind the scenes, everything in the Burns family was a farce, a game of appearances and lies. Keianna was exhausted from living a double life. It's difficult to judge the actions of someone under the weight of depression and other debilitating mental health issues. But it's equally heartbreaking to think of the 8 children left behind, now forced to navigate the world without their parents. News of the influential couple's death reverberated throughout their vast network. The shocking end of Ronell and Keianna Burns became a trending topic, flooding social media with an outpouring of grief and disbelief. Friends and followers shared condolences, struggling to reconcile the tragedy with the image of their seemingly perfect lives. Amidst the digital mourning, a darker narrative began to emerge. A tribute from a close family friend revealed a disturbing truth. Even those closest to the couple were unaware of the hidden turmoil until the very end. Ronell Burns, the post stated, was someone who felt the need to flaunt his success and luxury. These are usually the most insecure people. The writer continued, he got so caught up in his own self-belief that he mistook his sense of self-worth for a sense of self-importance. Imitating a stormy activity, he was able to ruin the life of more than one diligent and successful woman. Such people have no pride and no sense of dignity. The friend's post went on to offer a scathing indictment of Ronell's character. He's just an ordinary con man who dragged his wives to the bottom. But where does a man like him get his pride? He deceived women, making them believe in beautiful fairy tales of happiness and success that awaits them only with him, because it is known that women love with their ears and dream of eternal love. But what about the subscribers? How much of the truth were they ever shown? The reality is that subscribers are strangers, often presented with a carefully curated and polished version of reality. Remember, the glossy image on the front of the paper always has a reverse side, and you alone decide what that side will be. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more shocking stories in the days to come.